in the immortal word of Patrick Wilmot, is to put up a mirror for the society and the judiciary to take a look at itself. You may love the image you're seeing in the mirror, which is fine. And if you are not too happy with it, I imagine that that will be the point where you begin to take steps to correct what it is that you don't like. But all I have done is that I have given a truthful account of what I have seen within the judicial system. And it has taken the loss of the judiciary for Nigeria to become the useless place it has more or less become now. So if we must deal with our problems, we have to begin by fixing our judicial system.
And you know, the first line that caught me, I think, you know, there's a lot of pen in the book. See, I always knew that Nigeria is built on a foundation of lies, right? That the country of my birth is iniquitous, right? Unjust and intricately evil. I had known this from my mother's womb, and I had never harbored any illusions about the existential nature of the evil empire in which we live. I mean, if you say you've known it from your mother's womb, that is like literally, right? Are you supposed to be a messiah? Are you supposed to be a prophet that kind of like foresaw the future? You know, why would you say this? You know, and when we talk about the arguments of our foundation and how Nigeria was formed in itself, we've heard those arguments in various quarters that, you know, that is the very basis of where we have a problem. And in building, you and I know that if you build a structure and there's already some level of fault within the foundation, it is very likely, no matter how grand your ideas are, no matter how beautiful your ideas are. So if you are coming from the position of the foundation, how did we get it wrong? At what point did we get it wrong in the foundation? And if we truly want to even say we want to solve the problem, how do we start to solve this foundational problem when we are far gone into the building?
See, there is this analogy that I'm fond of using, and it's the one that says that if you are meant to be going to Sokoto and you headed in the direction of Badagry, at some point you are going to have to admit to yourself that you are headed in the wrong direction, and then having factored in the fact that you are not headed in the right direction, now recalibrate your movement to head in the direction of Sokoto instead of continuing to go towards Badagry, because no matter how long you kept traveling on that route, you're not going to get to Sokoto. The problem with us is that we have been lying to ourselves as a collective for so long that it is actually the person who forces us to confront the truth of our lies that we begin to attack. We cannot become the country where precepts, concepts, and words come to attain new meanings. If we say we are citizens, what we are saying without any ambiguity, for anybody to be a citizen, for a society to have citizens, you must be found on the rule of law. It would mean that both the governed and the governors are equally bound by the law. It must mean that the judiciary is one that deals with people blindfolded. You don't see religion, you don't see ethnicity, you don't see political affiliations. That is the job of an independent judiciary where in a society ruled by law. But in a situation where instead of us being ruled by law, even at the most elementary level, we're governed by the will of men. No matter how perfect those men might be, they remain men, and it simply means that for as long as we are ruled by the will of men, we're subject to their whims and caprices. It then means that you cannot have a fair measure for dealing with people within that space. The reality of the Nigerian situation is that neither you nor myself can be said to be citizens. We are just subjects. When you proceed from that and you then factor in the fact that those who are constitutionally, and I'll come back to that word constitution, charged with the duty of upholding the law, are already cognizant of the fact that they don't have laws to uphold, and that all they have to do is to uphold the will of men. So you have a policeman come to you, he's not dealing with you based on the law, he's dealing with you based on his evaluation of your person. So if he looks at you and he believes that you have the capacity to call somebody higher up, or if he takes you to the station, you have the capacity to converse with his superiors, he deals with you in a particular manner. If he sizes you up and he concludes that you are not possessed of the capacity to call up someone and you are a nobody, quote and unquote, he deals with you in another manner. If you took that to another level, you understand that if you're driving on the streets of Lagos, for instance, if you, as a private person, drives on BRT lane, the police will catch you. But if the bus driver, the danfo driver, enters the same lane, they'll probably wave at each other because the bus driver had purchased the license for impunity when he paid his dues in the morning. So you are not dealing with a society that is governed by law. The first time I was slapped by a policeman, I was 16 years old. I wasn't doing anything wrong. There was a riot going on, student protest at Oscars in Ife. There was a problem at Unifair in those days, and there was a riot. And I was going from my hall of residence, heading to the school campus to go and read. I didn't realize that there had been a resurgence of the protest and police were chasing students around, cops and robbers. So me, I was coming out of my hall of residence, heading to the school to go and read, and I ran into a policeman. And, you know, it was like in a cul-de-sac, we ran into each other, and he slapped me. He slapped me so hard, my books fell down. And the guy was just looking at me with his hand on his waistline. And in that moment, you know, he just, in fact, the way I wrote about it, when I eventually wrote about it years ago, I said I received sense. He slapped me so hard, I received sense. Every illusion I ever had about the Nigerian police being a law enforcement agency disappeared. So if at 16 years old, I've already lost any illusion I had about the legality or otherwise of the law enforcement agency in my country and its relationship with the law, I might as well hyperbolically say that I knew from my mother's womb that I'm living in a country that is not governed by law. That is just the reality. Everything I've seen in my 56 years of being a Nigerian has told me that my relationship with agencies of the state is not predicated on my citizenship because I am not considered one. So if I am not a citizen, which is further strengthened by what I told you before, Constitution, I'm sure you'll be a member of some trade group, maybe like the Broadcasters or Journalists Association or something or the other. There must be an association you belong to, maybe even your town's union, maybe your old girls association. Any association you might care to belong to, you would have a constitution. That is the set of rules that governs your organization. This is a country where the people who are called citizens have never been privileged. Since 1963, they've not been privileged to write a constitution for themselves. It's been military adventurers who have written our constitutions. How do you then speak to citizenship when the most basic right of the right to craft the rule by which he will live, has been taken away from that citizen?
But let's touch on something you just said that is very powerful, because again, I believe is one of the problems we have in Nigeria. The pay grade for people within the judiciary, right? Same as media. You know, some checks and balances that should even help checkmate any bad governance, right? Should be people within the media space and people, of course, within the judiciary. And you see this happen perpetually over and over again. Is it that this poor pay has become a tool in the hands of leaders to continue to control what you want me to do, you know, how I want you to say it, how I want you to rule on it? Is that a deliberate attempt to actually kill the system so that nobody I mean, nobody does what they are not, I mean, they have not been asked to do.
All right. I'm fond of explaining that our problems are built on three legs. It's like a tripod. You've got weaponized ignorance, you've got weaponized poverty, and then you've got weaponized religion. Weaponized poverty is what you're referring to, and that is where you deliberately underpay so that the person is kept servile and underfoot. What you have today is a situation where there is practically no Nigerian who is earning a salary outside of the top tier that is earning a living wage. It is particularly more so when you come to government workers who are deliberately underpaid and allowed to use the powers of impunity that they maintain. Because in the absence of the rule of law, you have to manage the rule of impunity somehow. So the people who are charged with the duty of preserving the rule of impunity are also able to administer the impunity in pursuance of their own interest. So when you underpay a judge or a magistrate or a policeman or a pressman, if you look at the press, for instance, the bulk of the press in Nigeria is now privately owned. But the private persons who own the media industry are largely persons connected to government. I've heard of cases where newspaper editors are told, I've given you the page, how you make money is your business. So the salary is not expected, and that has begun to, you'll find that reflected in our editorial styles. There are some stories you'll be reading in the newspaper and you know that somebody paid for this to be put there. And somebody else will then pay the next time around, you see something else for a rebuttal. You'll find interviewers incapable of asking questions that they are afraid of your answers because they don't want the owners of the station or friends of the owner to come after them. This, you know, when you talk about weaponized poverty, it seems such an abstract concept. But when you break it down to specifics and you then ask yourself, how do you explain that a policeman who is given a gun, who stands on the road, who actually tells you to your face, I'll kill you and nothing will happen, you know that they are paying him 50,000 naira. No matter the rank he's hanging on that road, at that checkpoint, he's earning less than 50,000 naira. A bag of rice is over, he can't buy a bag of rice. Just a miserable bag of rice he can't buy. He might have 5 children, his wife, himself. How is he supposed to feed on that money? So exactly, so you've already created the condition to make sure that he is incapable of upholding the law, but it is beneficial to a system that is designed to run on impunity to do that. Because that then renders that policeman more amenable to do the bidding of his political masters, and you can replicate that all the way down the line. The judiciary, the press, everybody. Poverty has become a real thing.
I want to read something here. You said Afe has been corrupting the Supreme Court from ages past, and he has led it to commit the most, you know, your words are quite egregious act of evil and wanton injustice. It says Afe knows where her ladyship does not know, or what her ladyship does not know or pretends not to know, that justice does not live in Nigerian court, and you can get the court to do whatever you want, as long as you know who to speak with and who to pay.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Put it this way.
When I looked at this, I now said,
I'm writing about a man who is, I believe, in his 90s now.
Yes.
If I stole 10 million naira from you, for instance, now, it simply means that if you went back into my history, you'll find that I had stolen 10 naira from somebody before. I cannot suddenly change and become what I wasn't in my dotage. The level of corruption that I witnessed in this case the brazenness of it is not suggestive of somebody who is coming to the rodeo for the first time. This is a well-practiced person. This is the norm for these persons. Look, no matter how corrupt a judicial system might be, there are certain precepts and norms. It's like I want to count 1 to 3, and then I'm looking to skip 2. So I just say 1, 3. Where is the 2? So there should be some order, some processes by which you arrive at a particular decision. That is why the court have rules. You have rules of court, and that is why we have laws. But when you see the highest judicial body in the country flouting its own rules and acting in a manner that is suggestive of impunity, then you know that something is very abnormal in that situation. I have not written these words lightly, and I am eternally grateful to God that these persons are alive. They are alive. If I have lied against them, they have recourse. Every last allegation I have made, the proofs are in the court's file. I don't even need to be the one bringing out anything. The evidence in the court's own file proves my allegations. Clearly, beyond argument. There are no ambiguities here. It's a situation where when people become so powerful that they don't even care or believe that they are subject to any law, the law does not apply to them. The brazen impunity by which they did what they did made it impossible for maybe somebody else might have been able to find peace and walk away and be telling the story as part of their moonlight tales, or maybe when they sit amongst their friends and they are sharing beer and cognac, maybe they might have talked about it as further proof of the putrefaction of our judiciary. But I'm not interested in beer parlor talk. It is the system itself. I'm not even interested in Affair and all the other people involved. It is the system that allowed them to be who they are and to do the things that they have done that I'm speaking to. If those ones are there, they're just collateral. They are not even, there is no damage. They are the ones who have caused damages. So they are collateral beneficiaries of the story told because they are the operatives of the system. I'm not interested in their person, but the evil system that they represent is my mortal enemy.
So I like where you took the conversation to, because it then leads me to some of the arguments that we've also heard. That are you not speaking based on a small okay, so these conclusions that you're drawing about a big system as the Supreme Court of Nigeria, right? Is this not coming from just your interference with this small body group of people, when you guys have a larger body? I mean, there are thousands of people within the judicial system in Nigeria, you know. But it then made me see this part where you said that you have seen injustice everywhere within the Nigerian court, that you're a lawyer with over 2 decades behind your practice, and you have interacted with the judicial system as a practitioner, as a victim, and as the aggrieved. He says there's no justice to be had in our criminal system. I have become convinced that the system itself, it's criminal and completely incapable of delivering justice to anyone, because the justice system is part and parcel of a governance system that cannot afford to allow the equality of the citizens before the law. This is powerful.
It's the truth.
So, but are you not drawing up this conclusion just based on your own? I have to be objective here.
Let me tell you.
So it's like, okay, so it's like I have dealt with, I've dated you, I've dated somebody else, and all of a sudden, I now say men are.
You know, I get what you're saying.
All men are useless.
I get what you're saying, but let me show you something.
Yes.
Because of the evil done case I referred to, a lot of people lost their homes. Miscreants entered Nikon Town to claim that they are claiming possession of part of Nikon Town. They entered multiple estates in the Lekki axis in 2013 based on the strength of this fraudulent judgment. Those are persons who are affected. I told the story of a man on whose behalf I sued at the time. He had only 2 plots of land. I got judgment for him from that same system. So when I say that there is no justice to be found within the Nigerian legal system, I understand that it sounds like a sweeping indictment of the system. But if 65–70% proves to be true, that generalization holds completely true. That is the reality with which we are grappling. I have never come into the public space to talk about personal battles I am fighting within the judicial system. There was a case at the time I was writing this, even at the time I finished writing this, there was a case where I had been sent to prison almost for life until I paid 208 million that was owed by somebody for whom I stood shorty. I went through the gamut of the judicial system. I was convicted in the High Court. I went to the Court of Appeal. I never brought it to the public space. I didn't make it a subject of social media, entertainment, or anything like that because it's not personal. It's about testing a system. The matter went all the way to the Court of Appeal, and it was only in June last year, in fact, it was June 23rd, became exactly a year when the Court of Appeal discharged and acquitted me. So when I say the system is incapable of giving justice, I'm talking about systems. You would always find outliers within even an evil system. Even the judge that convicted me in that case is still somebody I consider probably one of the few judges in Lagos State you can't even induce with money. But it didn't make her any less unjust because she did what the system demanded of her. EFCC charged me, and as far as she was concerned in her thinking, because the EFCC had said so, it must be so. In spite of the evidence that were before her, she still convicted me, but I didn't hold it against her. I had enough faith to believe that any judicial system that is fair, looking at these facts, should free me. So I went on to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal indeed asked me to go. But does that mean that other people have not been unfairly dealt with by the system? No. I could afford to pursue my case. I could afford to fight through the system. But this was a case that should never have been taken to trial in the first place, but it went to trial because that's the way the system is rigged. This was a case the judge should never have sent me to jail, but she did, based on her own understanding of the law. But I went on to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal said go. But the point that the fact that I was exonerated by the Court of Appeal does not eradicate the fact that it shouldn't even have happened in the first place. But because the system is not designed to give justice, it is meant to punish. Once you are not one of those to whom impunity is applicable and you run foul of their legal system, the intention at every point is to punish. It's not to find the justice or the equity of the situation. So if anybody is finding any level of justice within our system or equity within our system, it's either you're particularly blessed to find one of the rare judges on the bench, or you're particularly favored because somebody decided to do the right thing and read through your pleadings.
Some have argued that, in terms of all this, your goody two shoes, you want to be the just and upright lawyer. I mean, there's no amount, as in there's nothing to show for it, right? They've said you are not, is maybe because you're not this, you are not successful, you're not this, and all this your bragados, dogotorachi is not taking you anywhere. Do you understand? So and this is the argument, when people get to this kind of level where you are now, they begin to then attack your, different things. They attack a lot of things, and they say, all this your good boy, whatever, where he carry you go, like literally, like where are you today compared to the people that you have mentioned, the names that you have mentioned, see how far they've gone in and all of that. When you hear those kinds of arguments, how does it make you feel?
In the first place, I don't hear them, and I mean that. I don't hear them. The ego does not concern itself with the cackling of hens. It's too far up. So the hens can cackle all they want. You can't hear them. I'm incapable of hearing them. Years ago, I wrote a piece, I titled it, "I Do Not Write For You." I don't do what I am doing so that people might applaud me or say, oh, is this or is that. And anyone who has any understanding of my background and who knew me from way back would also know that I'm not doing this for money. In the first place, I have given up more than anyone can give me to change my ways. I am where I am intentionally. If there is anybody in the Nigerian space who is more intentional about his words and his actions in relation to interventions in the Nigerian political space, I would love to meet the person. From the first time I came into the consciousness of the Nigerian public, I've made it very clear that my purpose is the destruction of this system. So I don't expect this system to reward me. So I have no expectation of any reward from this system. And the persons that they think they are looking to as exemplars of success are people I consider despicable. I am not writing for this generation, if the truth be told. I am writing down so that people who might be coming behind us might one day decide to navigate their ways out of the madness that we have all become immersed in, and they will know where we went wrong. So this is essential. Every book I have written till date, in fact, there are actually 3 books that I knew I had to write before I can start engaging in any creative work that might offer me any joy. Those 3 books, Do Not Die in Their War, Imperatives of the Nigerian Constitution, and Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System. Those 3 books were meant to be written before I could do any other thing with my creative capacities. And I have written them. Whether the people who read them today have any appreciation for them or not, I can't care less. Whether people believe I'm a madman, in fact, I prefer to be considered a madman, because the moment you can say he's a madman, he allows you to ignore me. Abi? So you can dismiss what I have to say and conclude that I'm speaking out of my insanity. But I know that when the time comes and history is written and this period is being reviewed, because of what I have done, history will recall that there was one amongst them who wasn't crazy. And if that's the only thing that is done, in fact, I will go to my deathbed happy in the knowledge that history will absolve me. So that none of the things that they are doing, which I consider the cacklings of hens, affect me. The Latin people have this word, they say aquila non capit muscas. It means that the eagle does not catch flies, it doesn't chase flies around. That's the dicta by which I live my life. I don't care about what any one of them have to say. I can't even hear them. I need to come down from where I am to come amongst the hens to hear their cacklings.
I keep wondering, so if we say all of these things, right, where do we now find the ray of light, right? Do we have people like that, that actually put the interest of other people, that actually care about the well-being of other people, that can say, you know what, let me be fair in these dealings and all of that?
Nigerians are good people. Our people are not intrinsically evil. It's the system that is forcing a lot of behavioral changes that are making our people seem more and more beastly and unreasonable every day. But the Nigerian is no better or worse than the next human being. So it's a function of leadership and the governance systems. If the governance system does not punish honesty and reward evil, you will not see the proliferation of evil that we see in our society. But when you live in a society that punishes those who seek to do the right thing and reward those who do the wrong thing, which has become the right thing, because we've now inverted sanity. We've become so acculturated to madness that it is the person who is doing the right thing that is considered insane. That is what has happened to us. So there is nothing about us that is so intricately bad or intrinsically evil that we cannot respond to positive change. We can. We are more than capable. Look, the average Nigerian leaves Nigeria it goes to Canada, goes to America, goes to Australia, the UK, and they excel. They get entrusted with public trust, and they excel. But the same Nigerian, he doesn't even get the opportunity. The system is designed in a manner that assures that those who are likely to do good don't even get there. The system is designed to work against the emergence of anything good. So it's almost like the system is poised to identify good, attack it, and destroy it. But it promotes and rewards evil constantly. That is the system we've built for ourselves. That is the crux, the enlargement of the Atlantic. That was the entire purpose of the thing. Maybe that coastal road might be built, maybe it will never be built, maybe it's only the Lagos end that will be built. I don't know. But what has been done there is not been done because of some public interest. It's because of the narrow, selfish interest of Tinubu and his cronies. And it's not really about the dispossession of landmark. It's about the dispossession of an entire stretch. People who have lived on the coast of the Atlantic, places like Okunmokpo, Okunaja, Lafiaji, Igbo Efon, Elegushi, Kate, all that, the Goshen Estate area. This is not about a land grab. It's not about money. It's not just about 4 billion per kilometer of stupid road that is being built in the midst of hunger. No, it's about a land grab, completely unconscionable. And this is something that happens all the time. So that the state is busy demolishing houses, that nobody appears to have any regard or respect for laws and public order, that's not big deal. It's the normal thing in a society like our own. There is nothing there. There is nothing new. Where else would it happen? You have multiple laws related to public procurement, PPP laws, all kinds of laws that demands that public tenders must be had. You even have a road that is being, you've awarded a contract without EIA. It was only after you've awarded the contract and the road construction has started that we started hearing that because of the undersea cables, you can't do it. That is not a society that is telling you that it goes to any length to plan its expenditure or that has any respect for any rules or law. You can't run away from the rule of law if you must build a sustainable society. If you go back to the foundational theories of the emergence of state, it is very simple. It says we were all living in the state of nature, and in that state of nature, life was nasty, short, and brutish because each person was doing as they please. And then they all sat down together and decided, let's find a state and let the state regulate our affairs and protect our lives and properties. That is the modern theory for the evolution of the state. But the key thing in that evolutionary theory for the state is that they submitted themselves to the state. The state itself is submitted to the law. So both the state and the individuals who have come together to found the state are submitted to law. But we are growing up in a society where the last thing in the consideration of those entrusted with public trust, quote and unquote, is the law. They don't care anything for the law. The law does not matter.
How do we clean up the system? Right? How do we clean up the system? And you have put out your own truth in this book. I believe that whoever feels disgruntled, you can always come out, you can reach out, we will also talk to you. But I mean, this is your truth. I'm trying to say that so that we are careful of or mindful of the thing Chimamanda said about the dangers of a one-sided
narrative,
one-sided story, right? I mean, if you feel like the allegations are too strong and you want to also do a rebuttal, we're fine and we're open. And I say that, I said that to ask, how do we clean up the system? Because you know why? The people that will clean up the system are the people. Yeah. It can never be these people in the political class. It can never be because, and when you continue to have these people which is us, our families and whatever, that keep on saying, no talk like that,
Careful.
be careful, oh, and all of that, So when you keep having that, how do we find the courage? How do we find the courageous people? And it is not because I don't believe in all these transactions of going to the streets to go and protest, because I don't.
It's a waste of time.
It's a waste of my time.
I've never, ever in my life
said it in my life.
I've never supported street protests.
No, I don't.
We might get there. Don't get me wrong. But before we ever get to the point where Dele will support street protest, it would mean that the average man on the street of Nigeria is aware of why we have to do that. It can't be a group of Voltrons thinking that they can take on the system on their own. No. The people must be invested in the change.
And not only being invested in the change, the people must also, we must also get to that point where the average life of anybody in Nigeria matters.
Of course
because,
it should.
I mean, protests have been known to create a lot of things, right? It can cause a complete overhaul and change of the system.
Yes.
But it is only when people actually are empathetic and they value that, oh my God, my child is crying, why? But we are not there yet as a people where people value human life.
Those who have sought to change Nigeria from time immemorial, the Fellas of this world, the Bekor and some Kuti, the Gani Fawe of this world, they've engaged Nigeria by sheer force of their personal examples, and they believed to very large extent, almost all of them, that by reason of their own example, they can get the people to follow and then they can change the system. I have no such illusions. The only thing I can do is to continually educate the people and confront them with the ugliness of their reality to the point where they begin to desire the change that I am showing them, and they are willing to get up and pay the price that they might have to pay for the change that they desire. The only reason the fraud of 2015 happened was because the Nigerian people, they outsourced the revolution that they sought.